What's going on, everybody? Give me just a minute here. I'm finishing the setup on my end, and we're going to go live with this. All right. I'm early. I broke my microphone stand, so I don't know. We'll see what ends up happening. Get yourself an adult beverage and join us on the Zoom. In the Zoom room. Bear with me. I'm going to be admitting you one by one, so understand it may take just a hair bit of time as I get all that figured out. And when you first join, I'm going to mute you until I switch over to the main room. Oh boy, we got some dirty, nasty people jumping in here already. Cheers, everybody in the Zoom room. Oh, no, you didn't, Ryan. I ought to reach up there and get you for that. Can't have you dying on the toilet right now. I saw that, Ryan. Got a bunch of scoundrels right here. I mean, it looks like a room full of convicts over in the Zoom room. All right, let's get this bad boy underway. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. So this is the end of the year stream that I like to do where I invite in the guests, the viewers, everybody at home to come join us and just have us a great time. So if this is your first time tuning in for it, you check back, go back through the videos. You'll see some ones I did, many years ago. I guess this will be my third year doing it. Maybe my fourth. I think it's my third year doing it. But I've been doing it for a long time. So I want to continue with the conversation. Ryan playing some Celebrity Turf Jeopardy. Sounds like a good time to me. All right, now bear with me. I'm going to try this scene that I had built over. I'm going to purge this right on over into the tubes here and see how this ends up going. Hey, looks good on my end. I know y'all can't see it yet. I am going to ask all of y'all to unmute yourself, and then we can start to have somewhat of a conversation. I don't know how civil it'll be, but we can at least give it a whirl here. Let me kill the music on my end. Oh, who didn't understand what? Alexa, what did you just say to me? Alexa, I asked you a question. What did you say to me? Whose Alexa was that? Raise your hand. Look at nobody will answer me. Whose Alexa was that talking? Aaron, it was you?
That was Ryan.
It was Ryan DeMays?
Oh, yes, it was.
Ryan, we're gonna go get. Hang on, more people are joining. If you are trying to join the Zoom room, bear with me. I for whatever reason I've enabled the waiting room, and I can't fix that. ZG is still asking questions like there may be something happening at Carbon Earth. I promise you, ZG, nothing is going to be happening at Carbon Earth. I put that timer up there as kind of a method of buying time, just in case we were able to get everything sorted out with Carbon Earth and everything that was going on with it. And no, it was not possible. 100% impossible. Nothing was going to come of it. And so that placeholder is still there, but ain't nothing gonna be taking place with it. I'm gonna ask all of y'all to unmute. But that being said, I've thrown a couple of things into the chat that I'm not personally going to put any kind of I don't know. I'm just going to be real careful what I say about it. But all I can say is that if you want to go there and get signed up on any kind of a list there, that would be fine too. You're more than welcome to do that. I don't know why I cannot get a running view of the chat. Here we go. I'll take expensive. What is this, Ryan? Wait, what are we talking about? Alexa, you would be a toaster in the gutter if it weren't for me. Look at that. That's kind of my take on the whole thing. Oh, celebrity. I got it now, Ryan. I got it. Oh, Telly Coleman's coming in. Telly Coleman is coming in. Look at so many people that I end up seeing here now are all of a sudden in here. I'm going to ask all these people to unmute yourself. I know, Ryan, you don't have to, but if you want to, feel free. Where did Aldo go? Where did he go? Telly, what are you doing, man? How you feeling over there? You got me all paranoid. So, and we'll continue on with this. I have been having issues with my left eye. I've been having ocular aneurysms where the. What is this? Is that Alexa again? Oh, somebody's got it on in the background. If you have the video going in the background, please mute it and just listen through Zoom, and that way it won't echo through, kind of like double in whatever. But anyway, I've been having an eye issue and having ocular aneurysms, and I've had two of them so far in my left eye. And the first one actually recovered pretty well, and had the second one, and the second one has recovered well. And Telly works in the medical field somewhat in kind of a roundabout way. And anyway, he was talking about the AAA, and he's got the identifier in his hands. Telly, what is the AAA?
A AAA is a abdominal aortic aneurysm. That is basically when you have your aorta, which is the main blood vessel that supplies the lower half of your body, has outpouching. You can either have that with a lot of high blood pressure and stress, or you can have something called an aortic dissection. That is when the large blood vessel in your the aorta that leads to your that delivers blood to your body. Actually, the inside wall pulls off of that. Either way, to show you a demonstration of it, this is like your normal blood vessel, your aortic blood vessel, and the blood goes from top to bottom. Usually, it just normally just pumps very slightly. When you have a dissection, then it gets a little crazy. It gets like this. And then when this stuff pops, it's not good for you. So anybody who has any kind of aneurysm, any kind of broad problems with stuff going on in your eyes, you also want to take care to make sure there's nothing going on in your stomach. So whenever you get a chance, make sure that you go and follow up with your local physician. I think it's probably been, like 12, 14, 15 years since you've seen a doctor? I don't even know.
No, it has not been that long. So,
okay.
Yeah, it hadn't been that long at all. So I did. I went to, I can't, forgive me, I don't remember the name. If Jordan with the lawn tools is in here, forgive me, sir. But I went to a surgeon that does eye surgery. So I went to the optometrist first, and he looked at it, and he diagnosed it as I had a macular hole, is what he originally thought it was. And I was, kind of figuring that out. And they're like, well, maybe they can go in there and laser it and that kind of stuff. Well, when they dilated it and looked at it they did like a 3D scan and all that. They said, no, actually it was a blood spot where your blood vessel had ruptured. And so that was where it kind of started and progressed into that. And so he's the one who diagnosed it. And he told me, he was like, listen, you've got to find some better ways of dealing with stress in your life. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that's great. Cause I'm real good at that.
Friend, an eye doctor is not no, he's good, but an eye doctor is not, friend, a general doctor, not a abdominal surgeon, not someone who will take care of stuff in your belly down there. The little difference between here and down there.
There is.
An eye doctor is not no, he's good, but an eye doctor.
If somebody is listening to the video in the background, please mute it, so that way it does not carry through Zoom. If we all sit still for a second, I can tell you exactly who it is too. Oh, nope. Whoever it was muted it. Look at that. Look at that. It was tsunami. Oh my goodness.
Salami.
So yeah, anyway, that's, I definitely will get that checked out, because I don't want to have one of those, I don't want to have an aortic aneurysm, abdominal aortic aneurysm, because that sounds like, instant croak. I think is the only way
Would be a good guess.
I would pretend like I didn't know who that was, except for it has your family picture next to your name in the participants there, but. They're not like Richard Nettles said, they're like a chiropractor. No. They are eye doctors. I mean, they're legitimate doctors. It's just when I think what Telly's saying there is that when it's occurring internally, you have to go to an internalist, not just an eye doctor or two. It'd be like going to an eye doctor for a heart problem, right?
Correct.
Just not exactly wise. It's not exactly what I would call a specialist for those types of things.
A cardiologist would be good too.
Yeah, a cardiologist. That's who I'd want to go to, is a cardiologist. Yeah,
probably so.
What are the internal medicine doctors? What are they called?
Internalists. You had it right. Internalists. That's what they're called.
Okay.
That's what my wife is. She's an internalist.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe we should get her and I just grill her with a bunch of questions.
I will. She's kind of out of town.
Wife, am I gonna die?
She just left a couple minutes ago, going out of town.
I promise I wouldn't do that. I want to thank all y'all for coming in here. Look at that. Look at this. We had a question here. Just an honest question. What's up with all the Toro nutmeg huggers lately? Great products, but it takes away from the originality of the channels that I've grown to love. I don't know. I don't know what Toro's marketing plan is. I have no deal with Toro. I have no deal with nobody except me, myself, and I. So it's hard for me to say what other people are doing with other companies. So I don't know. And you have to think about the way this goes, right? So if you are a business owner and you're cruising around on the old YouTubes and you see a community come together like the one in like has with the lawn care community on YouTube, I mean, it makes sense that you would want to be involved on that, right? For a little bit of assistance. I mean, right? I mean, that's what it's only a smart business move, I feel like. And so, and here's the thing, really. Is Toro going to put out a bad product? I mean, not usually, right? I mean, there's...
It depends on who you ask.
Oh, Ryan, you purist!
What?
You purist! What is a bad Toro product? Explain, because I don't know. I don't know. I'm not an equipment nerd like all of y'all are.
We're listening.
You got to unmute yourself, sir.
Unmute, rookie.
Hang on. I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself. All right, there.
Good.
It's all in the eye of the beholder, right? There's some that they've missed on for sure.
What? What did they miss on? I don't know.
Oh, I don't want to get into it on here, but yeah, you're right. It's a business move, and that's all it is. So, people taking free stuff, whatever, and they're pumping it out there. But do your research.
All right, look.
Lots of good manufacturers out there.
There are lots of good manufacturers out there, and there's some that are not very good either. So, for instance, and I guess this is where I'm going with it. Let's compare. If we're going to compare Toro, right, to say another company that's putting lots of equipment out there for people to review. For instance, we'll compare Sunjo with Toro. I feel a little bit more confident if I'm buying a Toro product rather than a Sunjo product. Me personally, that's just me. Am I crazy for that, or is everybody in defense of Sunjo here that maybe the same thing that I don't know, Sunjo may have something extra out there that we all need to take a page from the playbook. You got to unmute yourself, Ryan DeMay. I can't hear you while you're muted, sir.
Here's the thing. You go put yourself on video. What's going to screw up when it comes right out of the box, right? Either you got a lemon or the thing is going to work perfectly. So let's see that thing like 3, 4, 5 years down the road after you run over some tree limbs with it, or, not wash it up when you're done with it. Maybe, clipped off a part of your toe or something like that with it. That's what I want to see how it's doing. I'm not so worried about how it looks or plays coming right out of the box. That's my thing.
I know.
Well, I've done that with all of my Toro products. My Green Master, I've treated it like crap. I run over twigs, I run over mulch, I run over everything, and it still runs great for me. I barely clean it up. I cleaned it up over the wintertime. I have no problems. And it's a 2008 Toro Green Master. And if Toro would like to send me a triplex, I will not turn it down. I will make videos. I haven't made videos in 3 years. 3 years. I've made 2 videos in 3 years, but I'll make another video for you.
Kelly's drunk on
No, it's actually not an ad. I used to mow my lawn with a Great States reel mower, manual reel mower, and some people know the size of my lawn. I used to do that. I did that for 2 years.
Yeah, what do you have? What is your lawn? 20-something thousand square feet, Telly?
It was 22, but I've expanded it now. It's like 38.
It's one of those expansion projects.
It was my workout. Other people walking. When you walk, you don't go nowhere. You walk and you come back. You haven't accomplished nothing. So why walk when you can just walk and do a manual mower and mow the lawn and get your exercise and get something done? That was my mind state until I got old, and then I decided I can't do that anymore.
No, I get it.
Hurts.
I get it.
Aw.
Kenny, what are you doing? Congratulations on your award, sir.
Does that show up on your screen? I only get winner at the bottom.
Oh yeah, no, that's all I see is winner, but that's all it needs to state is that you are the winner, sir.
It says worst accent on YouTube, winner.
Yeah, and I mean, just hearing you talk right now is, boy, it just reaffirms my decision there.
I'm pretty sure Kenny's gonna go back to back even next year with the worst accent. Yeah, I'm gonna put some money on it. Anybody, any takers?
Now I need to go to speech classes.
Listen, I was getting text messages about the individual winners today, and no lie, I got a text message that said I had never heard Kenny Cooper talk, but after hearing him, he definitely deserved that award. So I wasn't too far off with that. Timmy Bluegrass, what are you doing, sir?
It's me.
Now you're mute. You muted yourself.
Screwed it all up.
How are you,
So
sir?
I will say,
Cheers.
So I will say something since we're talking about these toros, and I'm kind of on there with Telly. So I've got about 15,000. I've got a 42-inch Husqvarna riding mower that I bought when I first bought the house. Hate it. I actually will rather use my Toro and push mow the 15,000 square feet than ride that damn Husqvarna around the yard and tear up my yard. So again, someone else saying, Toro wants to send me a time cutter. I ain't going to turn it down. But for the time being, I'm using a little, recycler to push mow my whole yard. So help me out, Toro.
Get that Kohler engine on it.
Yeah.
And Super TA followed up here. He said it's not about the product, Matt. Maybe you're not understanding. I've been following everyone for 3 years plus, and notice content is more about personal gain versus the original content. Now, and I will say that yes, I would agree, and I kind of share that same sentiment. But the one thing I will say about it is that the lawn care community on YouTube is young. Okay, and I feel like everybody's still trying to find their place within it because it is so young. And I think a lot of people right now are even still trying to find their own personality when they produce a piece of video content. There's a reason why I kind of stopped making videos is because I have I don't know what's the right way to describe it, but I get frustrated. We'll just say that. I get incredibly frustrated when I see some pieces of content and I see people speaking with, I'll tell you, my biggest pet peeve, you can't, that's a green doll, and so you can't see it because of the green screen, baby girl. I get frustrated when I hear people that have 2 months of experience, 3 months of experience. They start recording YouTube videos, and don't get me wrong, the production quality is great. Everything about it is phenomenal, but they have no idea what they're talking about. And I am a lawn care turf purist, right? And some it's not me one of the Jabbawockees. That's a compliment to her. I'll say that right now. But I'm a purist, and so when I see that take place, I get frustrated. Super T. I get frustrated, and I shouldn't. I should be able to disassociate myself from it, stand back, and be like, oh, it's just people that are having fun now playing in the yard. And then you'll see the next video comes up that'll make me just a little bit madder, and it'll be like the best herbicide. And it'll be a video about tenacity or a video about like 2,4-D or something. They'll be using a 3-way herbicide. And that's step number 2 that gets in my crawl. And then the next video will be like, the 5 steps to having the best lawn. And I'm like, you are oversimplifying something that is so incredibly complex. And it may have worked in your situation. It may have worked in your scenario. And that's fine. And I'm glad you were able to discover that and that it's going to work for you and 50 other people. Fantastic. But you have to remember there's 500,000 other people out there that may be interested in this and take up what you have to say and end up making some sort of catastrophic mistake. And I'll point back to, for instance, Negate Gate, right? And Negate Gate was one of those things that absolutely drove me bonkers, because this is someone who, and I'll go ahead and use their name because I did it before. But it was How to a Duck, and it drove me bananas because he speaks with such authority and such and I do the same thing, pompousness, a certain amount of pompousness. And I get that. That's his personality. I have a similar personality. You know, two kittens don't play real well in the sandbox all the time. So I get it, and I don't hold that against him. But you will never see me produce a piece of content where I tell people to intentionally violate the label in such a way that could cause harm. And the difference is that I promise, regardless of what he says, and he may be 10 times the business person that I am. He may be 100 times the business person that I am. And I respect that. But I can guarantee you he has nowhere near the experience or puts nowhere near the effort into the industry, studying the products in the industry that myself and a few others do as well. So when I say the lawn care community is young, the lawn care community it's young. And I mean, you know, obviously Alan is you know, the kind of the pioneer. You know, he's been doing it for 10 years, you know, and so it's not, you know, it's, when I say it's young, you have to remember that it was Alan for 6 years, 5 years. And then, you know, 5 years ago, I started making videos. Not long after that, it was Paul's Prime Cut started making videos. And even then, when I started talking about turf grass, I was the only one at the time talking about why we do things in turf grass. And that was kind of my niche that I was able to fill. And so when people started coming in on it, part of it was a defense mechanism in my part. I'm like, get out of my territory, stay out of my space. This is my space. You don't belong here. Just because, you know, it's that competition mentality. But the other part of it was that from what you were actually talking about is a crock of shite is not good. You know, you're giving not just bad information, but information that points to the industry being not what it actually is. There's a certain amount of skill. There's a certain amount of knowledge. Exactly, Lambert. And in fact, when I started, you know, it was Geek to Freak. Exactly what you're talking about, Greg Chisholm, and what a crazy thing that happened to him. It was Keith Kalfas, who is in. If any of y'all have, this is OG lawn care stuff on YouTube. Keith Kalfas is more of like a spiritual guidance kind of guy, and the same way he is a lawn care guy. And I've met him in person, and he's the exact same in person as he is on YouTube. That is not a character he plays. He is exactly like that in real life, which is awesome and incredible. And he's really intense. And, you know, when you get away from him, you feel exhausted because the guy just took you to a very intense emotional roller coaster. So, you know, now that we've progressed and moved on, now you're starting to see people that have had channels for 2 years and 3 years, and that's relatively young in the space of YouTube and the community. But we're just now getting the big influx of people that are 1 year into this, or 6 months into this, or a year and a half into this. And so people are still trying to find their space and their niche, and so there's going to be some hiccups and bumps along the way. So, and if you have to think about it from your standpoint, that if you started a YouTube channel 6 months ago, and a company like Toro reaches out to you and is like, hey, we want to send you a mower, what does that feel like? It feels like you won the world. You have literally won whatever it is life has to offer. You are winning it. You just won it. And you're going to call people. You're going to call your mom and tell them, Toro just called me. You may be 45 years old and you're calling your mom and telling them Toro just called me. You're going to call your dad. You're going to call an ex-girlfriend and say, Toro called me, bitch. Bad word. So it's just one of those things. And so I don't blame them for, when a deal comes across their table like that, even if they're not being paid for it or whatever the case may be, it's not about money at that point. It's the fact that somebody approached them and said, will you do this for me? And it feels good. And everybody wants that kind of affirmation. Everybody wants that feeling, because that's the whole point of doing it's. Whether you intend to or not, that's always in the background of making videos, is that you want somebody else to co-sign your BS in your videos. You know what I mean? So that was a really long answer to give an answer about Toro.
Just saying, if Toro calls me, I'm quitting my job.
I'm going to burn my house down. I'm setting my house on fire. The remaining sheds I have, I'm burning those down. It's all we're going to do. A fire for the next 10 days.
The reason why.
I thought it was awesome.
No, go ahead. No, that, like I was saying, that is the reason why I quit YouTube after 3 videos. It's too much responsibility, and when you put out a video, people think that you're an expert. So I got bombarded with over 150 emails asking me all these freaking questions that I was a newbie. I had no idea what to do. So I was like, I'm a perfectionist. I want to answer every email. It drove me crazy. And I can answer some questions about the medical field, but not about anything with the lawn. So I was like, I'm not going to give someone some incorrect information. I'm not going to tell people to put herbicides and hose-in sprayers, and I'm not going to do anything like that and make a mistake. So it was not the field that my expertise. So I just passed it along to other people.
Yeah, and I make sure they missed it up in the air, right?
Light coat.
Light coat.
Lightly missed it.
We're going to do 2 light coats.
Blue dye.
2 light coats.
So, I can't fault anybody, by any means. It is what it is. And really where I have found my niche and where I'm going to be moving, at least my channel from this point moving forward, I think everybody got a little taste of that towards the end of 2020, where I started pouring rocket fuel on a fire. Is I'm gonna start playing the role of some kind of pseudo police officer, I guess is the way to put it, in a very weird way, because I just don't care anymore. I've reached the age where I just don't care. And so,
but you should. If people are freaking eating glyphosate, and if people are spraying stuff in the freaking air, you need to get in their ass or arse. Whatever you call it.
Yeah, and seriously, and I feel like I do, and because Ryan, what do you do for a living, Demay?
I grow grass and kill it. And then grow it again.
Exactly. Green Doc, who's not on here, what do you do for a living? Aaron, what do you soon to do for a living?
I'll be spraying grass and growing it.
Blushy, what do you do for a living?
That's really not.
Cleans up
Drinks Bud Light for a living.
Greenwood, what do you do for a living?
Kelly to go to Wendy's.
Yeah, grow grass. That's right.
So there are so many people that rely on this industry. You know what I mean? That legitimately rely on it. And so us that rely on this industry, we kind of have to be a little bit protective of it, because we are working with one of the most intense buzzwords that exist right now, and that is the word chemical.
Humic? Oh. Sorry, guys. Sorry. I'm a newbie.
Scam alert. Oh, wait. Wrong one. Oh, wait. No. This one. The Humic Hotline. But, so we have to be, we have to be a little bit protective of it. Like I don't know. I mean, maybe this occurs in some of the other trades, but there's no buzzword like the word chemical associated with welding. It's one of those trades that yes, can you cause some major problems? But here's the thing is that if you are going to get a legitimate job as an industrial welder, your welds are going to get x-rayed. You are put under scrutiny. And you, in fact, in some of these instances, before you even get hired on at a job, you have to do a test weld on a piece of pipe and they'll x-ray it just to see if you qualify for that job because that's the rule of the union. We don't have that in the turf grass industry. We're regulated, but pretty loosely. The regulation in the turf industry is relatively, not relatively, majorly unfunded. So yes, there are the herbicide police out there, but nobody's out there enforcing it. Nobody's out there enforcing it. It's wide open, full throttle. So we kind of have
Karen's out there.
Who?
Karen's out there. She wants to talk to your manager.
Oh, Karen can come and get it.
What did you just spray in the dog?
Exactly. How many times a year do you get asked that? And seriously, Leslie, do you ever get asked that? I know you take care of all your buddies' yards, but do you ever get asked, what is that you're out there spraying?
Oh, all my customers. Oh yeah. I get asked by because I also take out spraying fields and the people that live in the city that are out walking around in the parks on the walk. I'm putting signs up, and I'm like, no, don't walk through here. Whatever it might be. But yeah, they ask all the time, what are you spraying? You spraying Roundup? You spraying Roundup?
Could be entitled to compensation.
I've had people ask me if I'm out there with a skid sprayer, spraying watering the fields with a skid sprayer. So they don't know. They have no idea what you're doing.
Yes, and when you're toting around a hose, it's real easy to assume that in that hose is something incredibly toxic, and it's full of toxins. And if my neighbor's using that, those toxins are getting into my water, and I'm going to have to do something to detoxify myself. Or what? This is what goes on in people's heads.
EDT.
Yes. How many times I get comments every month about people talking about how 2,4-D was used as a component. What is Agent Orange? 2,4-D is Agent Orange. I get that. And I try and comment. I'm like, listen, it was a component, but dioxin is a totally different thing. Agent Orange was a totally separate thing. It was terrible. It was awful. But it's a totally separate gig. But they just associate, Monsanto, Roundup, Agent Orange, Monsanto's out to kill everybody. I mean, it's just the short chain of command for whatever outside influences there are. That's the chain that's taking place. And so because there is no funding to regulate it, and that's fine. I don't want a lot of regulation in the turf industry. We have to step up and do it ourselves. So in the future, at least for what, and I get it. Rick with Turf Time making videos for like a journal. I get that, and I love it, and I watch those. I watch Mike's videos all the time. They're a journal. He's one giant experiment who's just not afraid to do anything with his yard, anything at all. That's why I love Mike. I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to do Kentucky bluegrass in my front yard. And I'm like, what are you thinking? And he's like, yeah, I'm just going to do it. Okay.
I'm afraid to go out and work in it now. The wife's going to yell at me. I'm not joking. I'm scared.
It's 9:00 on December 27th. You probably can let it go at least until tomorrow, Mike.
I still have snow.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I do too. Half my backyard.
Yeah, like my front yard is still completely covered, and the backyard's like 2/3.
No kidding. Get a snowblower, clear that off.
I put a video out, and then I didn't tag Toro, but someone else did. With
Got two of them. I understand.
Kenny, not everybody's up there in Canada, which it's kind of interesting looking at this room here. And pretty certain most everybody here, 50% of everybody here is from Canada.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Rich, where are you?
Pennsylvania.
That's Canada. Aaron, I know you're in Canada. Brian, where are you?
It's going to be 50.
Ohio, that's Canada. Ryan DeBay is in Canada. The Lawn Stripes is in Canada. Izzy is in Chicago. You're in Canada. Paul Smith, I have no idea where you are, but I'm going to go ahead and hedge on Canada.
I'm in North Carolina.
Ah, my man. Not in Canada.
And I got inspected by the state inspector on the day before Thanksgiving.
How did that go? What was explain your experience, and I'll share one of my experiences, but tell me yours first.
Well, I was in my home lawn, so it wasn't a big deal.
Hey, you just muted yourself. Hang on. Come back on and tell us about that experience. Well, he just walk up to you, and did he ask to look at any kind of paperwork or anything? Or was he just like, hey, man, what's up?
I was actually just cutting the grass. And I guess my lawn looked better than yours, and he was pulled up beside the truck in the trailer and looked inside the windows, and he said, do you spray for a living? And of course I said no. And it mows on.
Good answer.
I just happened to be at home.
And so this is my normal experience. He used to come by every Christmas. Brent with the Tennessee Department of Agriculture, one of the nicest people you ever meet. I love him to death. Brent would come by. He'd be like, "Hey, have me some paperwork ready that we can go through." And he would check my invoices and make sure I had everything up to snuff. He would check my chemical logs to make sure I'm detailing everything in that correctly. They change the rules from time to time. Like the new one that was, I guess, 3 years ago that was implemented, or 5 years ago, was you had to do percent use dilution, which was brand new to me. You know, that was new for the state of Tennessee that year. So that was one of the ones I had to go back and add to my paperwork was percent use dilution. So. And basically, you know, we just went through it. We chatted for a little bit. You know, he'd tell me about like real infractions that were taking place where people went and sprayed, 1,000 acres and killed 1,000 acres and that kind of fun stuff. And, they were like spraying 1,000 acres with stuff that like can kill people kind of stuff. And so, he covers like 13, it was more than that. It was like 33 counties or something in Tennessee, I think is what he covered. It was some astronomical number. And I was like, are there even that many counties in Tennessee? And he's like, yeah, it's ridiculous. Like, there's no way I can get to all this. He's like, I drive past people spraying Roundup out of a backpack in flip-flops because I don't have time to stop and deal with it. I was like, man,
that's their problem.
Yeah, and it is. That's totally their problem. But it's, it just, I don't know. I have no idea how we got off on this.
Some of the people that don't even pay attention to stuff being sprayed just blows my mind. The census people were coming around. Some lady walking through my yard, like part of the ditch, so she could walk on the road. Why she decided to walk through my yard, I don't know. Walking through my yard, shorts, tennis shoes. I'm in full get up, long pants, long shirts, nitrile, backpack sprayer, mask on, and all this stuff, spraying herbicides down. And she just walking through. I had to yell halfway across the yard. I'm like, hey, what? I'm spraying here. Oh, she continues walking on through my yard. Okay, well, I guess she'll be someone for some sort of cancer later on, but okay.
I can't tell you the number of times I'm spraying the yard. And when in residential, you always start in the backyard and work your way to the front. And you've done 90% of the backyard, and the homeowner opens the door. The dog comes flying out of the door, and is running around the backyard. Everything's soaking wet where you've been hosing it down, and they're out there, and then they start trudging through it. They're like, hey, did you see these dandelions over here in the far corner of the yard? You're like, yeah, I already sprayed all that. Please get off the grass. I just sprayed all that. They're like, it's all right. I'm just making sure you saw that over there. I'm like, okay. I just sprayed it.
Does that at my own house. I'm out spraying the backyard, and I no more than walking out the gate. Here comes the dog. It's like, I just sprayed. Back inside.
In instances like that, it makes you wonder: are those the people that are going to come back and say something to you after the fact? Like, oh, I ended up getting what is it?
Hodgkins or whatever.
Exactly. Are those going to be the ones that come back and say that? I don't know. So, and then the whole point of this was that moving into next year is that it's just going to be, if I wasn't enough of an asshole this year, next year should be really kind of accelerated. And so
I'm looking forward to it.
I got plans with Brian DeMay, and I can't really say a whole lot about what those are right now, but it's and I don't know. You may not even
have his mic unmuted.
We might. We might not even have our faces in it. I don't know. It depends on how buck nasty we end up having to be. Brian Russell says, talk about the new company. Brian, are you? Oh yeah, you are in here.
That was a great way to describe that, Matt. Thanks.
Yeah, you like that? You like that? I still can't get into a whole lot about it right now. Brian, if you want to talk off the air, I can do that, because I have to be very careful what I say in public because I'm being watched. And I know I'm being watched because every time I say something, I get emails about it the next day from either my attorney or other people's attorneys. And so I've got to be real careful. So I feel a little bit more confident typing it like just real quick in the chat where it can scroll through real quick. And people aren't normally like scanning that for different types of things. But even then, I just got to be real careful. So we can talk about it offline. All I can say is that everything is going good. Everything is trending in the right direction. Yes. How about that? How about that for completely circumventing your question?
Subvert.
Yes, there. Of course, subvert is the thing, and that is ongoing. And there's actually I've been working decently hard on this break, at least getting some stuff organized on that end. Ryan actually sent me some interesting things for me to take a look at and kind of work over. And of course, the big product release that's going to be coming up this year is going to be, at least for the start of the season, is going to be the one that we call Prefix. And I'll be sharing more about that as we move a little bit further along into it. But at least the data we've done where we have compared it to the effects that took place on different pre-emergence, it absolutely negated any of the negative effects on the positive turfgrass while still not having any effect on the actual pre-emergent itself. So that should be somewhat of a fun one. So Brian, that's there. And now I'm done. That's it.
So you have something called prefix. You got a suffix?
I do not have a suffix, and maybe that'll be the next product in the design.
Something with sulfur? I don't know. Suffix?
So, yeah. Hey, that's a good one.
Yeah, there you go.
I can do that. Well, yeah, we can do a little sulfate mix there. Rick, did you say you have the Rona? Rich, keep calling you Rick. Do you know how you got it?
My wife.
Oh.
No, my wife's mom has got a quadruple bypass, and she was in the hospital when she came home. My wife has it now, and then I deliver motor oil during the day when I'm not doing lawns, and I go to all these car dealerships, and no one's wearing a mask and it's crazy because like in the what do you call it, in the service department, no one's wearing a mask unless you get in the customer's car, and then they take the mask off. And it's like, I went on Christmas Eve before I went on vacation, and it's like, walked into this car dealership, and there was like a table with like 20 chairs, and they were having like Christmas lunch. And I was like, what is this? Like the coronavirus lunch, luncheon? And my wife tested positive the other day, and I feel like I didn't get tested yet, but I know I have the same symptoms that she has. So I'm going in tomorrow to get tested.
But you're married, so you should have been 6 feet away from her, right?
pretty much.
What are your symptoms right now?
I got 101, 102, and I feel like someone has like a lap band belt around my chest. You know, and
yeah, you got it.
I got the chills, you know, and like I just feel like the little hair that I have left is like standing straight up, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got it.
You know.
Can you? Has your taste and smell been affected at all?
My sense of smell has always been off, you know, for years because I have nasal polyps. But my taste, it's just, you know, it just feels like dirty mouth, you know, like morning mouth, you know, basically.
Yikes!
That's another symptom.
Yeah.
I'm curious, how many people in the Zoom right now have had the Rona?
Nope.
Oh, Rich, you're the only one. Oh, that's right, Telly. I forgot you did, but you didn't have any symptoms, did you?
No, I didn't have a lot of symptoms at all. My son got it. You know, he's at Florida State, and as soon as he stepped off the plane here in Tennessee, he was like, "Oh, I don't feel so good." But he's 18, so he only had symptoms for like 24 hours, and then he was good.
That's wild.
Got too many coworkers with it though, so I'm trying to keep away from it all. That's in the hospitals and everything.
I distribute motor oil all over the place, so I'm driving in Jersey, Pennsylvania, and back and forth. And I go at least 12 stops a day, every day, different places. You know, so kind of exposed all the time. We may wear the mask, but we can get to these places when people aren't wearing masks, especially in the mechanics type of world, you know, like that industry. They don't even wear them. They walk right past you when you're doing a delivery or something. It's just like, you got to stand right here, you know, like.
Well, their immunity's built up because they eat all their sandwiches with the greasy hands, you know. Or is that just me?
I can vouch for all this, everything they're saying. You know, mechanic world over here.
Yep.
What are you having for lunch? Oh, some 10W30 and a BLT.
10W30 looks like some of the beer.
Usually bearing grease.
Ryan, I got your picture here. That's a pretty good one. Ryan DeMay and I have been following a little bit too closely the Nashville bombing that took place, and apparently a picture of the guy has been released. I don't recognize him. I've never treated that guy's yard. I can guarantee that.
Yeah, so that little detective work you were doing the other night.
Yeah, man, I was deep in it. I have fun. I will say this: there's a minor bit of morbid curiosity I have towards what makes those people think, and to put that kind of energy into something so destructive. I don't understand it. I marvel at other people's energy levels because I'm exhausted at the end of the day, and I can't imagine adding one more thing to my plate that would require that much effort. I don't have it in me, I guess.
Yeah, it sounded like that was pretty well thought out.
Yeah, it's a nutcase, absolute nutcase.
That's something you figured out last week. I'm gonna go bomb something.
Well, Rich, I hope you feel better soon, and hopefully it just passes just in absolute moments. Like he's taking his temperature again. Man, how far into your mouth did you put that thing? It disappeared. Did you see that?
That was like the thing from the Nicki Minaj video. He was touching the thing that's giggling in the bottom of his
Rich, stop doing that. That looks painful.
Oh, yeah, put it all the way in.
My goodness. You're going to inhale that thing.
If you would have been on the Discord, that would have been something else.
It's not going to be the Rona that gets you. It's going to be inhaling a damn thermometer.
Rich, it's just a tip, all right?
It's not working.
Of course it's not. It's in your lungs.
You got to go deeper.
Now home.
Just see if you can get the whole thing in your mouth, the LCD display and all. Just make it all disappear.
And cough for you.
Wrong cavity.
Yeah, thermometer look familiar. Used that same one on my kids when they were babies.
Honey, where does this thermometer come from?
You probably need to get one of these.
Tastes funny.
I found it next to the crib. Is this thing clean? Ow.
Yeah, I heard the only difference between a regular thermometer and a rectal was the taste.
Keep getting an error. I think this thing's dead.
You killed it. You sucked the life out of it.
That's what she said.
Tommy, what are you doing? That's what I want to know. What Asami's doing? Jabberwocky.
Yeah, that one freaked me out.
Asami's over there masked up. She's full-time masked up in the house, out of the house. Believe it or not, this is how she stays in the house 99% of the time. We have an odd way of communicating with one another. It's lots of facial expressions and hand movements.
99.1.
That's not too bad.
It's not too bad right now.
100.3. That's when you got to start worrying about it.
So I get real sensitive with fevers though. Like I'd say probably something like 99.3 is where I just start feeling terrible. I'm a total baby for a fever. I hate having a fever.
Yep.
Sensitive towards those types of things. I had the flu. Asami, when was that? Last December? Or was it in January? December? I don't know. She's thinking about it. 1, 2. That's got to be December.
1,
right?
2.
Oh, it's Roman numeral. It's 6. Oh. Sorry, I'm thinking too hard.
Yeah, I am racking my brain over here trying to figure out the hand signals. But
that was 1, 2 reversed. Or 2, 1 reversed. There you go. 12. There it is.
Yeah. Okay.
That's
Okay. So that's got to be December. But when I had the flu, it was the worst fever I'd ever had. It was. What did it get to? I think it was like I shouldn't ask her because I'm going to get more hand signals. But I think it was up to 104. I think is how high it ended up getting. It was hot enough to get into a cold bath. Wow. And that was the highest temperature I've ever had. And I thought I was going to die. And I slept for a solid 2 days. And they gave me this new flu medication too. You take like 2 pills or something at the same time, and that's all you take. And 2 days better. I mean, it was like literally was like flipping a switch, and I felt back to 100%. I was ready to eat, and everything just immediately turned back on. And I haven't been sick since.
Here in Canada, we'd huddle around something that large at that temperature just to keep warm.
Of course you would.
Right in the middle of the room and just like let you warm up the house.
Listen, I'm stunned you have electricity out there.
That's
Yeah, are those candles you have on in there, or is that what's going on in there?
Why it's flickering.
Okay.
Why it flickers up there.
I thought so.
Still working on that plumbing. Probably still get it before Connor's shed.
Rick, where do you live?
Kansas City.
Oh, hey, that's debatable, Canada. That's debatable.
No,
Canada.
it's not. It is smack dab in the middle of the United States. I'm below Ryan Noor at that. So
all right,
Ryan is Canada, so I'll put you. You're at the line. You are at the line.
All right.
It's Toronto.
Which side of Kansas City is it?
I'm on the Kansas side, actually.
Oh, I forget. Kansas City has a Missouri side too, right?
Yep. Actually, Kansas City, Missouri is probably more well known. I'm on the Kansas side. It's just a big old suburb. I'm in the suburb of Kansas City. So,
do you like it over there?
I like it much better than the Missouri side. It's debatable from people that live here because outside of Kansas City, everybody just says Kansas. So, but I prefer it. Much more land, and I'm a cannabis farmer. So
What?
yeah, so it works a lot better for me over here.
So, you wait, cannabis farm. So, are you growing everything CBD related?
Yes.
Okay. What does
Is it legal?
It is. It's legal over here. Since the 2018 Farm Bill, Kansas, I grow through Kansas State University, and it is all legal. And I have 300 acres that is my own personal property as well. So,
God damn, baby.
How did you get into that? I need your number or something. We need to hook up.
Listen,
Rick, we'd be good friends, brother.
Right.
I have a lot of land in Alabama, so I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what the laws are in Alabama, so
it's not going to come anytime soon.
Right.
Listen, there is. I'll kind of explain because we fiddle farted around with it in Kentucky, and this was kind of the situation we ran into where, at first it was everybody was kind of making the mad dash to get it in the ground and get it planted right, and then trying to sort out the details after the fact. So everybody rushes, we get it all in the ground, get it grown, harvest it. And then all of a sudden the processors start showing up and they're like, okay, this is what we're going to do. We'll process the material. And then as we sell it, we'll split the money. We'll pay you for what you grew, and then we'll keep for, our processing fee or whatever the case may be. The problem was that once they took your yield, you never saw them again, or you never got paid. And that has just continued for year number 3 now. And so many people that I knew that started out in it have gotten out of it because they still haven't been paid on their first crop that they planted up. And, and you start talking like in the cannabis world, 300 acres is like the equivalent of an 8,000 acre farm on the large scale side of industrial agriculture, because that's, in terms of dollars you have into an acre, you have a lot of money into an acre because you're buying clones and all kinds of stuff. Are you planting from clones or seed?
The first year in 2018, I did all seed, and now I am pretty much all clones. But the clones come from my own personal stock now, because I have 6 greenhouses that I can actually just plant from that point there. I'm not growing on all 300 acres, but the acres that I am growing on, I'll come from clones.
And then the other thing too is that, kind of that first year you saw everybody was running rows of plastic, and then year number 2, nobody was running plastic. And heaven forbid you have a disease year, because, there's nothing labeled for spraying that. And if you get caught spraying that, it's one of those things. And depending on your local Department of Agriculture, they may test for it, they may not test for it, kind of thing. And so it's the Wild West right now as far as getting involved in it.
Yeah, that's what it's been referred to as, is the Wild Wild West. The cool thing about Kentucky, though, is you guys there have actually been into this market for a while now. It was a natural transition from the tobacco over to cannabis because you actually had the machinery, the dry houses, a few modifications with the combines and things like that. But it's worked out pretty well. But like you said, if you don't have a buyer with a something in writing already, it's a crapshoot with those guys there. So some people just did not get paid. Kentucky and Louisville, I go there every year for the Hemp Expo, with the exception of this year because of COVID.
There's a Hemp Expo?
Yes.
Can you tell us when that goes on?
Yes. It happens roughly around March. It's around February or March of every year in Louisville, Kentucky, at the Louisville the center down there. But yeah, it's been going on for years and years, and that's where all of the growers, a lot of them focused in around Kentucky, Tennessee, the areas that's legalized to grow industrial hemp. But we'll get a few stragglers like myself from Kansas, people from Colorado, a couple people come in from Oregon and Washington State and things like that. But it is a really cool thing, and it is probably one of the best expos out there to be able to network amongst this particular field for industrial hemp. So, and it's actually a good way to be able to line up processors, distributors, all the way up to your retail market. So it's kind of just one of those things of getting your ducks in line before you even put a plant or a seed or a clone in the ground, and going forward from that point there.
So there was and this is kind of the weird thing was, I guess it was 2 years ago we had
Anonymous Guy Fawkes.
Yeah. That's a Asami, show your
center is
show
easy
your
place to find too.
your
Just
sweater or
look for
something.
the cloud of smoke when it goes on.
There was a company out of Canada that were basically, they had people out of Indianapolis that were selling futures contracts for hemp being grown. And it was kind of a weird thing where they would come in and set up monitoring technology in your fields and stuff. And it was a floating pay scale. We'll put it that way, based on what they observed coming out of your field. And so it kind of spooked a lot of people. And then, they were going to be the ones that were processing it in Indiana as part of that futures contract. And it just got real odd. And anyway, the big company that bid on it ended up going out of business. Like, a company bought them, and right before they gave them the check or whatever, they backed out on that deal, and the whole thing shut down. And they had contracted, I can't remember, it was something like 1,000 acres or something. It ended up taking none of it, and it just left everybody not knowing what to do with it. And so, they all obviously dried it down and have just been sitting on it since. And so I've been seeing a lot of people that are still sitting on a crop from, last year that they just have no idea what to do with.
And at this point, there's not really much they can do with it, because the thing about harvesting, the THC level tends to go up after harvesting, and chances are their stuff is hot already, because the legal definition of industrial hemp is Delta 8 THC has to be 0.3% THC or lower. And after harvest, it tends to go up. So folks can sit on this stuff for so long, and then you'll run into certain processors that will test it. Actually, most processors will test it again, and they'll find out that the Delta 8 is much higher than 0.3%, which can go up to 0.4, 0.5%, which still isn't enough to get the psychoactive compound, but just the legal ramification that can go behind it, and they won't end up processing the stuff, and they'll have to end up destroying it. The farmer that grew it will have to end up destroying it, or
take my other phone. Hold on.
Yeah.
So the weed is too much. It's too high. You get too messed up.
No. This is the legal definition: 0.3% Delta 8 THC or lower. That is the definition of industrial hemp. Anything else is considered to be hot hemp, and it cannot be processed. It literally has to be destroyed.
Who made up these rules? That don't make any freaking sense.
It's part of the whole hemp coming back.
Destroy.
It is.
Guys around the burn pile.
Might get your gas
Who wants
mask.
to help me come destroy some weed?
So, and this is where it's one of those things, and some of the guys I know that are real big into it, they are, they're still chasing after that year one, year two money and hoping it does not become commoditized. And because then once it becomes a commodity, then it's all a volume game, right? And so it takes the craft out of it, and then you're having to lease acres, and bid for all these different prices, and you're going to get pennies where you were getting dollars, kind of thing. And so it's just a full throttle, wide open, buck wild industry right now that I think is really cool. And it's funny, someone in the chat right now, I'm looking right now, this is Wheat Culture of Australia. He's talking about some things that he has going on in Australia. He said he's in the right place. Normally we actually talk about turf grass. This is kind of a new thing here.
Full grass, baby.
Yeah, I'm actually going to check out his. This is the Hook Weed Culture Australia. It looks like he may have a YouTube channel too. But he said the weed industry will soon try to stop craft cannabis to better increase profits for investors. And that's part of that whole commoditization thing of just all of a sudden becoming a volume-based numbers game. And, how do you go about combating that? Because when the big boys start coming in with the real money and they're buying all these craft brands, right? You think about like Blue Moon when it first came out, and it was a craft beer, right? And then who was it? Miller bought Blue Moon, and it just became part of the industrial beer complex of, it's everywhere you go now, and it's easy to get, and nobody really regards it in that same allure that everybody did when it first came out. And I think it's going to be kind of the same thing.
It's just like tall fescue.
What about it?
Hey.
It's exactly like big fescue. Exactly the same thing. Taking it over, knocking out the little KBG guys, and
You want to put in on this, Ryan? I feel like you got a good opinion here.
I don't know. On the weed thing or on the
on the fescue? I mean, sure.
I don't know, man. I mean, the commoditization thing, that just goes back to what Matt was saying before. Like, there's people that try to simplify stuff way too much. But on the fescue thing, there ain't nothing wrong with the new tall fescues. They're good. They'll do what you want them to do. They're not going to look sexy, but they're going to produce. They're going to put out. You're going to be happy. You're going to go on 6 dates, and maybe they'll turn a relationship or something. I don't know.
Listen, if there's, and this is one thing that I say, if the turfgrass industry, we're talking about the whole cannabis industry has been so underground for so long, but look at what they're doing with genetics that is not taking place in turfgrass right now. At least I feel like not at the same speed.
It is, and there's one company dominating that right now.
Which one are you talking about?
They're located near me. I'll say that.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. I know where you're going with this.
Right. So that's the whole point of.
Wait, talking about tolerant types?
Yeah, and the tolerance has nothing to do with. The tolerant types have nothing to do with claim benefits like on turfgrass. So like if it's a Roundup Ready plant, that is irrelevant to them. They don't care about that part other than the fact that it creates a breeding cycle that goes from 2 years and shrinks it down to 2 months. And so your ability to screen true hybrids and grow those and continue to cross-pollinate those is incredible. The throughput that you have in their scenario versus a conventional breeding system is immense. So it's a lot easier and cheaper to work out the bugs on something simple like Kentucky bluegrass or St. Augustine grass, and then take what you learn there and apply that to cannabis.
Well, the other thing too is when you're talking about crop, harvestable crop, right? You do have kind of a modeling system of big agriculture to kind of fall into, so everything from seed research to plant research, obviously big agriculture has big money. And if you can kind of model yourself into that whole piece, then you've got really a blueprint to work off of. But when you're talking about perennial plants, right, that you're trying to maintain over a lifespan of indefinite, right, until the next better strain comes along, and the cost to install that, right, for perpetuity, basically, it's a big project to undergo introducing or replacing all your strains of turfgrass versus, well, you're going to harvest everything so you can start all over again next year with a whole brand new crop or a variety of different crops that you're going to be going when you literally start over every year like you do in cannabis or any other agricultural field.
Do they use pack low with cannabis? Growth regulator?
Yeah, people use growth regulator with it. Now, legally, do they do it? No, but I think you'll see. I have seen written basically every. I'm not familiar with any growth regulator that has not or is not being used with cannabis right now.
Matt, I think one of the things that's going on right now that you might not be aware of is that the alcohol business in the United States has invested heavily in the cannabis business in Canada. And so they're obviously just waiting for legalization to happen here. So both you see it with major wholesalers, you see it with winery companies, they're putting 25, 30, 40% into Canadian companies. And you've seen hundreds of billions of dollars going into that. So these guys are getting ready to do that. And they're getting ready to take control of the cannabis industry, I think, in a distribution sense, very similar to what you see with alcohol.
Really? That's interesting.
Just Google.
That's a whole new meaning to the word Budweiser.
I didn't hear you, Charlie. What did you say?
Well played.
It's a whole new meaning to the word Budweiser.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that though.
I think the other thing, Matt, too, is that sometimes some of this stuff is just bullshit to begin with. So you talk about Blue Moon, like that was never really a craft brand to begin with. I mean, it was brewed at like a Molson brewery in Colorado. It was released like in a small sense, but it was basically always a Miller Coors product. They just marketed it as a craft product to make you think it was a craft product when it wasn't. And they, very rarely, I think to the day, still don't attach the Miller name to it. So, but again, it never really was a craft product in any real sense. There was no guys in their basement kind of a thing. It was an experimental brew at I think at the Coors Stadium, maybe in Colorado, actually.
See, I didn't know that either. So whatever their marketing tactic was, it worked.
It works really well.
Yeah, it worked on me because I can remember being in high school and seeing it and being like, oh, look at this. It's got oranges in it. You drink it with an orange and you're brand new.
Yeah.
It's like a tastier brass monkey.
Cool story about Blue Moon. Me and some buddies of mine who just got out of the military, and we went into the gas station, and I was like, man, let's get this Blue Moon. He was like, man, it's girl beer. And I was like, it's girl beer? And he was like, yeah, it's girl beer. I was like, well, let's just try it, man. It's on sale. And I grabbed like a 12-pack of it. We paid for it, and we were going back out to the car. A car full of girls pulled up and were like, hey, can we get some of your beer? And I was like, yeah, here. I gave him like a couple beers. He was like, I told you it was girl beer.
Did you get the girls though?
No, they drove off.
Paul's Prime Cuts. Paul Outlaw had a good statement here. He said they can make disease-resistant grass all day long, but it has to make a viable seed in order to be a commercially viable product. And that's right too. When you're talking about it's one thing that if you produce a plant in a grow house that can resist every disease manageable, but it does not produce a viable seed, or there's no way of feasibly reproducing that plant, then that can lead to other production problems as well.
Well, you're seeing that in the grass seed market right now, though, where some of the super elites buy all the stuff that's really, really expensive. Those are low yield producers, and that's why they're so expensive. So it's really, really expensive for farmers, whether they're in Minnesota, in Canada, Oregon, wherever they're growing it. It's really, really hard for them to allocate space to something that might only produce half or a quarter, maybe, of the seed that something that's more commercially available. It's going to pay them on volume a lot better. So, that's the difference between a super elite and then something you can go get at Home Depot or Lowe's or something like that. Is the really, really good stuff is low yield producers. So you're going to see that coming up here. Perennial ryegrass in particular, really, really tough year for perennial ryegrass production. And especially in the higher end stuff, it's going to get much more expensive than you've ever seen it before.
So I'm reading here from Australia guy. He said even one of the things they notice is a plant growing there in Australia, seeded and sent overseas, will only hold the original form for a few seasons before it becomes climatized, and then the original plant is no longer the same. So you have changes in the terpenes and and the same with hermaphrodite plants and so on and so forth. And that's actually really interesting too, because we think about like reverse genetics taking place, you know. And so when I'm probably not using the correct terminology here, but we'll think about like a Yopon holly that's, you know, Yopon holly that's grafted onto a Chinese holly base, and then all of a sudden it starts putting off Chinese holly shoots. And there was one of the people that I was talking to on here, and we were concerned about a what was it, TIFF Sport, I believe, reverting back into mid-iron Bermuda because some of the turf had changed characteristics in different spots. And at first it was kind of one of those things where the sod grower was pointing the finger at the homeowner and the homeowner was pointing the finger at the sod grower. And then they brought in people from Tifton, Georgia to come look at it. And the Tifton, Georgia was kind of like, well, it actually may be kind of just reverting back to its original state kind of deal, because it's all manipulated through radioactive cobalt blasting of the plant and then propagated from there. So you kind of get some just variability. There's some potential mutations to take place. It can mutate one way, it can also mutate another way as well, and you don't really know what you're going to get at the end of the day at year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5 kind of thing. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Did an elephant just run through his room? What the hell just happened?
I don't know. Paul Smith, are you okay? Did you die?
It's time to get a new toilet seat.
Might be eating chili. Oh my goodness.
Sounds like a problem right there.
Yeah, Paul, are you okay? He's gone silent too. This is really starting to freak me out. Paul, are you there, sir? Do you need CPR?
Screwdriver giving this thing hell.
Paul Smith, there's only one of you in this chat. Please blink once for I'm okay. Blink twice for we'll call 911.
I'm here and I'm okay.
Excellent.
All right.
Excellent. Whew, I was holding my breath there.
Paul Smith, were you in line at the Wendy's with Telly Coleman?
I'm with you, Lushy.
The Richard Nettles here said he wants to give Mini Verdi Bermuda a shot, but he's a bit afraid of it reverting back because that's one of the characteristics of it. I'm not familiar with it, so I can't really make a comment on there. But I know
it's an ultra dwarf, just like Champion or anything else. It's going to revert back. It's going to segregate, and you have problems with it. So I'd be a little bit hesitant, especially I think he's in Charlotte, right? North Carolina, somewhere around there. Yeah. I'd hold off on that.
Asami, do you need to tie your hair back? It is. It's partially tied back. Almost looks like you have a bun back there. Somebody commented and said the low-key weed show. Polyploid mutation. I'm not familiar with polyploid mutation. I'm not familiar with that. I have no idea what that is. When you said that's one they'd like to see stabilized, at least in the cannabis industry. Polyploidy describes the case of a cell or an individual possessing an extra set of chromosomes. The type of polyploidy is designated by the number of haploid end sets that are present. Triploid 3N individuals have 3 sets of chromosomes, while tetraploid individuals have 4. I have no idea what any of this means. Not a geneticist by any. I'm probably not even using the words correctly. So that's the hook that is beyond my pay grade of what I feel comfortable talking about. Look it up. You will enjoy it. I'm sure I will. I'm going to end up down some genetic wormhole. But in my opinion, I feel like that's going to be the majority of the future of what we end up seeing in really in all instances and pseudo instances of agriculture, whether it's cannabis or turf grass or big ag, right? It's all going to come down to, how quickly can you manipulate the genetics of the plant to get every desirable out of it you possibly can while mitigating every negative out of it that you possibly can. Because from this point forward, how much further can we take fertilizer? And I say that, but every time I say that, we end up taking things a little bit further. And I don't want to get too deep into it. Ryan, you know which direction I'm going with this from a fertilizer perspective, and that's nano fertilizers and what's yet to be unpacked and uncovered there moving forward. To me, that's going to be a very interesting one, but it's also a very risky one. When you're talking about handling materials that are at the nano size that are able to avoid diffusion, right? So normally, when you're foliar applying a fertilizer, right, you're relying on diffusion. So the salts to balance between the exterior of the plant and the interior of the plant, right? And that's how foliar absorption occurs. But when all of a sudden you're talking about nano-sized particles, these are particles that are actually in suspension. They're not actually dissolved. It's called a colloid when they're held in suspension. And you apply them, and they're at such a small size that they actually pass through the leaf tissue. Well, in the same instance, that small size can also pass right through your skin barrier, right into your body, depending on what it's suspended with. So, especially if it's suspended in something that is fat soluble or, like for instance, oleic acid, that will pass through your skin barrier and then right into your bloodstream. And say you're dealing with, a ferrous product, an iron product, and that passes straight through to your bloodstream. How much iron does it take before you have iron toxicity and you croak out and die? It's a very real possibility. But in terms of the next frontier of fertilizer, I feel like just, a 30,000 foot overview, I feel like there's going to be more push towards nano fertilizer that we see. Also, some kind of weird secondary nutrients like nickel is one of the ones I see on like the green market reports. All of a sudden, just coming out of nowhere. It was zinc 2 years ago. Now it's nickel. And nickel playing some kind of role and not with nitrogen, and it starts to get out there. And you start talking about people handling nickel. I don't know. I mean, it's risky. Brian, do you see? Are you seeing the nickel thing right now? I can tell you where it's coming from.
It's on the ag side, but on turf, there's just so much that you're not seeing the money funded into that to research that. So that'll be the interesting part is what can we extrapolate from ag over to turf, and where does that really get us with results and outcomes and things like that. So yeah, the nickel thing is out there. Like you said, that zinc stuff that came down the pike, like it's bearing out on turf. Like everything that came through on ag has pretty much been what we've seen on turf. But again, it just comes down to we don't have a lot of money in turf research right now, so it's going to be a lot of these companies that are bringing products to market to prove what they have and what it's be able to do. So it'll be interesting to see, I think.
And I'll tell you, you're talking about nickel and ag. The first place I heard was, of course, it was coming from some guys at Nutrien, right? And turf guys at Nutrien, but obviously are being inundated with ag right now, because if you work at Nutrien, you can't get away from that. And rightfully so. I get it. I mean, that's your bread and butter. That's what what you do. And nickel may be the next home run in turf. We don't know. And so why not start, getting some acres, getting it applied to some acres and watching what happens. So I'm all for it. It's just one of those things is that as we kind of expand beyond what our fertilizer technology allows right now, with high risk comes high reward, right? And ultimately, though, with high risk is that there's also going to be some failure as well. So I just hope that when it comes towards the failure piece of using things like nickel or nano fertilizers, it's not at the expense of human life, right? And especially, I don't want anybody to die, right? But I don't want anybody sick or increases in cancer, because the last thing we need is another cancer issue in the turf grass or any agricultural related industry right now, especially in the midst and in the heels of everything that's going on with glyphosate and that chaotic crap. I don't know how else to describe it. Hey, I'm curious. Has anybody here heard of nano fertilizers yet?
Whispers.
Me.
Who said me?
It's new to me.
Not me.
So you know, Ryan, obviously, you know, we spend a lot of time nerding out. I mean, Ryan is a bigger nerd than I am actually about turf. So how about that?
Take that as a compliment.
You like that? You like that? I did that on purpose. And so it's one of the things we kind of see in the, and I say this loosely, I guess in the fringe of the turf community. I think it would still be considered kind of fringe, but more companies are kind of picking up steam as far as what they're doing, like New Algae, like who's the big one out west that's really making a name for themselves? Do you remember the name of them? I can't recall right now. Brian, Brian, blink once if you're okay, blink twice if something's wrong. I think he's frozen.
I froze for a second. What was your question?
Who's the nano fertilizer? I said New Algae is one of them, but who's the other nano fertilizer company out west that's making a name? Aqua Yield. Yes, is the other one. Aqua Yield. And the Weed Culture Australia guy right here, he commented, he said nano fertilizer is bad. By the way, it's a nonsense product, and it's one of those things like. Yes, and is a pure product. May it be? I have no opinion on it because I have. Somebody said Super Juice is a nano fert dosage wise.
Oh, wow.
That's funny, Richard. That is funny. That's a good one.
Can you give an example? I mean, just a brief definition of what nano fertilizer is?
Yeah. So normally when you dissolve something in water, it goes into its ionic form, right? So say you're dissolving ammonium sulfate in water. You have ammonium ions, NH3, and you have sulfate ions, SO4. Well, the problem is that oftentimes they will cluster up together. And so when you apply them to the plant, that cluster is going to be too large to pass through the membrane, the outer cuticle of the leaf, right? So it will just adhere to the outside of the leaf. And then diffusion, where you'll have a concentration full of ions on the outside of the leaf, will want to balance with a ionless concentration on the inside of the leaf. And so you'll have some of those ions be able to move into the leaf. That's foliar absorption being diffusion. The whole idea with nano fertilizers is you're putting, instead of putting these ions in solution, you're taking like an ammonium sulfate molecule and you're protecting just an individual isolated ammonium sulfate molecule or just an ammonium molecule and wrapping that in something to protect that molecule so it does not cluster with other things. And in that single molecule state, it's small enough in that single piece to be able to pass through the leaf tissue simply due to size, no longer due to diffusion. And oftentimes it'll be protected in something like an oil. So I was watching a video the other day, like ferrofluids, for instance, are part of that whole manufacturing process of producing a ferrofluid. You have to take it to a nano state and isolate those nano clusters in order for a ferrofluid to work correctly. If it breaks that nano state, then all of a sudden it will start to cluster and then it'll start to dissolve. And then you don't get the right characteristics out of it to see the types of things that you're looking for. So it's all about isolating those individual molecules and protecting them to keep them from clustering so they remain small enough to pass through the leaf tissue without relying on diffusion. So very weird because obviously there's some things we have no trouble getting into plant tissue, right? Like getting nitrogen into a plant, nobody has trouble getting nitrogen into a plant. But you start talking about phosphorus. Phosphorus can add a layer of complexity of getting phosphorus into a plant. You start moving into some of your micronutrients without a lot of upward mobility in the plant or downward mobility or any mobility through the plant. And then, you can now all of a sudden the idea of a nano fertilizer becomes a little bit more interesting because you no longer have to rely on root uptake. You no longer have to rely on foliar intake through diffusion to make sure it makes it into the plant. Or if you apply it in a protected state, like a chelated state, like an EDDHA or an EDTA, those molecules are so large, they have to move through the root. So all of a sudden you're bypassing that whole piece of relying on root absorption because it's so small, it can just move right into the plant. So kind of an odd thing in a different approach to thing, because if you maintain your tissue levels, if you can remain on such a dedicated liquid program that you no longer have to rely on root absorption because so much of it can be applied foliarly, it kind of changes the game, because what happens with your input cost when you're just managing nutrient levels at the tissue, on the tissue side of things, and then letting your soil remain what it remains. And that way the plant isn't having to pull anything from the soil all of a sudden, except for what it needs for maybe the root system. And you just focus on the tissue concentrations, and you manipulate that and that alone to quit relying on what's being pulled out of the root system. It kind of changes things up. And we attempt to do that with foliar fertilizers now. It's kind of the name of the game that you're doing with foliar fertilizers. But all of a sudden, if your efficiency goes up, astronomically, where you go from, being 30% efficient all the way up to, say, like 80% efficient, well, now there's a very real possibility that you may be able to bypass so much more of what needs to be applied to the soil for root absorption to take place.
Well, it's like an automatic assault rifle versus a sniper rifle, right? We can be much more efficient at what we kill or knock down in this case. But so, like, that's the whole thing with nickel, right? Nickel is a component that we need for the enzyme that breaks down urea, right? So if we get that in the plant with urea at the same time, that application becomes much more efficient at a foliar level, right? So the size of these molecules is the biggest thing, because where they're not entering through like the stomata on a leaf or anything like that. They're entering through these small little things called transcuticular pores, little spaces, little cuts in the leaf in between like little cells. Like if we look at our skin under a microscope, you'd see the individual platelets of skin. It's the same thing on a plant leaf. And so if we're able to get into those spaces and be much more efficient with what goes in, like what Matt was saying, your cost ends up going down over the long term. So it's just about figuring out where these things fit in. There might be a space that somebody can manage, especially turf at that level, and certainly other crops too. But I think that's the whole thing. It's about efficiency, about, if we can put out, say 5 pounds to the acre of nitrogen with a nano fertilizer product versus 25 or 40 pounds to the acre of a traditional product, that we might end up saving money, saving time, and having better results in the long run. So that's what it's all about. Just trying to figure out that we're just at the very tip of the spear right now, trying to figure this out.
So you think about it from this perspective, right? Like if you pull up an ag calculator and you say you want to harvest 300 bushel an acre of corn this year, it will tell you what your nutrient demand is. You have to have, 300 pounds to the acre of phosphorus available. You have to have, 300 pounds of nitrogen to the acre available. You have to have 400 pounds to the acre available of potassium. And that's based on nutrient demand for a 300 bushel an acre yield. That's what you have to have available in the soil. Well, if all of a sudden you're treating it all through leaf tissue, what if that all of a sudden is cut by 25%? Because everything you need photosynthetic related to produce a 300 bushel an acre plant isn't relying on what's in the soil, because you're maintaining it at the tissue level now. All of a sudden that goes, now you only need a quarter of it. And your soil already has that quarter, so you don't need to apply anything. So your cost per acre for that 300 bushel an acre just drops significantly, and you're still getting your same yield out of it. And your profits just went up significantly because your input cost just went down so much. And, how much of that parlays over to turf is yet to be seen. And that's, a big, giant unknown, just huge unknown right now. But like I said, as this continues to move forward, who knows, what that looks like. And
Matt, why would there not be research into this for turf grass? This seems like it would be a game changer for sports turf or golf course applications.
Cost.
Why would cost?
Do you know what it costs to take a piece of research to a university right now?
No,
it's crazy.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, for somebody to fund a study like that, it would be probably somewhere between $100,000 and $150,000. and to prove a product that you're not going to be able to necessarily sell at scale right away, that's an issue. So I think it's going to be a lot of this assimilation from the ag market and trying to figure out what works and what doesn't in turf, and then the folks that are in turf will slowly figure it out and bring it to market. But we've seen this time and again over these last 20 or so years, particularly in the fertilizer market, where we are the trickle down. Ag is a behemoth. I mean, it is the Milky Way to what we are in turf is earth. It is such a small scale of what we do in the marketplace that, quite frankly, people don't care about us. And so what trickles down to us, we will figure out over time, but it'll get proved in ag first and then come to us.
Yeah, it's so cost prohibitive. If you can't conduct your own research, there's not enough money in selling turf fertilizer products alone, right? That's why you see and I kind of relate this back to my experience with Carbon Earth. You see so few people make their way into the fertilizer market in general, right? It's new players into the fertilizer market. New players into the fertilizer market, I would say this, 95% of them are recycled from other people. So there's one manufacturer and they manufacture you a product line, they manufacture them a product line, then they manufacture them a product line, and it's all the exact same product or slight variances. This one has 3 parts per million of ferrous sulfate in it. This one has 2 parts per million of ferrous sulfate in it. And it has a brand new label, brand new sticker on it. It's going to say it's distributed by a whole new different person, but it all comes from the same place. And it's hard to break into that mold because those people have such a monopoly on the industry. They own the manufacturing piece of it, and they can manufacture it a hell of a lot cheaper than you can, a lot more efficiently than you can. So what is the likelihood of you being able to come into the market and stir things up really for them? Yeah, 1%, maybe you have a 1% opportunity to be able to shake things up. Because they own it. And not only do they own it on the turf side, they're also a player in the ag side. You think about, like, if you are a company in the turf side and you manage 1,000 acres of residential lawns, you're a big company. You have crossed the threshold into the size of a big company, right? And you kind of hit what I call the $200,000 plateau. In lawn care, there's this plateau you reach where you're doing real good and your total yearly revenue is somewhere between $250,000 to $500,000. And it's a plateau that if you push through that, you're great. You can start doing things with your business, but until you push through that, you get stuck there for a long time. And it may be 5 years, it may be 10 years, it may be 20 years. You may never leave it, but you're stuck right there. You think about what 1,000 acres is in agriculture, that's nothing. You're not even considered, that is a small niche farm. That is a super small niche farm. So as a manufacturer, you're not trying to manufacture for the company that's managing 1,000 acres, right? Because your volume isn't there. You have to manufacture for the people that are managing 5,000 acres 1,000 times over. You're going after 500,000 acres. And the economy of scale starts to kick in there, and especially when you're dealing with fertilizer, which is a commodity at the end of the day. It is a spot commodity out of the Gulf of New Orleans. So trying to come in and justify that, my cost per unit of nitrogen out of the Gulf of Mexico is going to be 25 cents, but you should buy my nitrogen, even though it's 75 cents per unit of nitrogen. And, you have to answer the question, why? And you better have your ducks in a row to answer why, to justify that price. Then beyond that, so you start making some headway, you pick up 1,000 acres and you start manufacturing for that 1,000 acres. And Big Boy, who manufactures for 500,000 acres, catches wind of it, and they come in and then they shit all over your product. And they say, listen, you're paying 75 cents per unit of nitrogen. If you come over to me, I'll get it to you for 25 cents per unit of nitrogen. And then how do you compete? You can't. So it's a weird market. I'll just put it that way. I call it the good old boy system. It's very inbred. Everybody kind of knows each other. Everybody has kind of, a lot of people have worked for each other. And it's just not, I don't know. It's tough. It's tough. I'll put it that way. I learned the hard way. I made so
Dumb
many
question.
enemies.
Got a dumb question for you. You think you could have used that as a stepping stone, gone to work for somebody for like 2 years and then started on your own? Would you had a name for yourself? You know what I'm saying?
No, I think it would have been worse off for me. If I was on the inside and tried to make my way out of it, it would have been way worse off. If I would have owned, like if I would have come up in this and I owned a distribution company, you know, there's lots of great companies out there that have been doing this for a long time that have, you know, that have experienced a name for themselves. And I'm not going to use anybody's real name, but if one of those people that owned a distribution company all of a sudden got into one of these projects and started doing it, they would probably be a little bit better off. But even then, you have competitor distributors that all of a sudden would be like, well, he's making a play to step outside of this, so we should probably go ahead and get involved on it too. So that way they don't surpass us by too far of a level. And then it kind of ups the playing field unilaterally. So everybody starts kind of doing it kind of thing. But there would probably be less just outright hate towards you.
That was basically it. Like, say, if you'd have more credibility with somebody else's name on your resume, basically.
If I started out in sales, say I was in sales at like Site One or something, or even as a manager at Site One, and I would have started this, hell no, I'd been stamp vetoed. Bah! Good luck.
Just another sellout.
What is this? Paul Outlaw said, turf rice is the bastard child of ag. All research and innovation will come through agricultural first. Yep. There's no doubt about it. Right. Somebody said, get Connor Ward in here. Let me shoot this link in there and see if he'll join us. Come in here, share his beautiful accent. Kenny, I almost tied y'all for the worst accent, but
instead he got the best.
Yeah, I was worried Connor would get upset with me, so I just went ahead and made him the best accent.
Come on, Connor, I'm representing you, man.
I never knew he was Canadian until you pointed it out to me. I never realized it.
Well, you gotta dig deep into Connor to find out the secret of Canada in his life. But if I recall correctly, he told me his mom's side of the family is from Canada. But everybody in that Utah area has weird accents. Have you noticed? Like Jimmy Lewis doesn't sound anything like Connor.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Just gonna send it.
Just gonna send it.
But there's some real rednecks in Canada too, and that always shocked me. Like as I have discovered more of the world, and I've got to say that's only recently happened to me. You know, I thought I knew everything because my wife's from Japan. I was like, oh yeah, I'm a world traveler now. But I was stunned. I was stunned at how redneck Canada was. Is that? It's unbelievable.
Western Canada.
So there's a guy, Rod Marquardt, who works for New Farm. I've had him on like a radio show before and stuff. And Rod was telling me, you know, growing up, he had a mullet, and you know, all he wanted in life was a Camaro, and just the stories he tells me, I'm like, man, that sounds like my family in Mississippi. Not sure I can tell the difference if it wasn't for the accents.
Rumor is they're like 15 years behind us. So when it was the 90s for us, it was still the 80s for them.
That could explain Larry and Tyser's whole look.
Yeah, does that explain why they still wear jean jackets and stuff?
Canadian tuxedo.
Canadian tuxedo. That's right. That's right.
Is that what that's called?
Yeah, when you're
down shirt.
It was a special edition up here.
All right, it is 10:17. I'm going to go ahead and call this. Thank you, everybody, for jumping on here with me. I hope y'all had an awesome Christmas, and I hope y'all have a very, very happy New Year. Always have so much fun doing this that I want to follow this right back up with another one.
Merry Christmas, everybody, and Happy New Year.
So
Happy New Year, Merry Christmas.
Depending
Christmas,
on
guys.
what my schedule looks like this upcoming week, I may be able to do this again. So I'll keep everybody posted and I'll advertise it and stuff. And maybe we can get the guy from Australia in here too. We can kind of continue cannabis talk now that I think talking about it from an agricultural perspective, I don't have to worry about getting in trouble on YouTube on it. So. Things are kind of loosening up, so you can talk about it a little more freely now.
Awesome.
But you are the grass factor, so.
I know, and that's the whole reason that the guy from Australia stopped in. He's like, "Is this the right kind of channel?" And by chance, the first time ever we've ever talked about anything cannabis related on the channel is the time he stops by. So I don't know. We're reaching out olive branches all over the place. So thank you, all of y'all. It's great to always put names and faces with people I haven't met. And we'll catch you on the flip side, all right?
Awesome. Thanks,
Merry
Matt.
Christmas, Happy New
Merry
Year.
Christmas.
Yeah,
Happy
thank you.
holidays,
Christmas, everybody.
Merry
Happy New Year.
Everybody. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Bye.
Bye. All right, let me move back over here. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. I had a fantastic time. Of course, it's always good to hang out with everybody, and put names with faces is the big thing. And so there was so many people there in the group that I have known for a long time, and I just you get to see them, and that makes all the difference. Oh, thank you, baby. All right, everybody. Have a very, very happy New Year. I hope y'all had a fantastic Christmas, got to spend time with the family and whatnot. And here's to, for those of you that had a bad 2020, here's to a better 2020. For those of you that had a great 2020, here's to an even better 2021. Cheers, y'all. Have a good evening.